Hey y'all, this is Amber with BLM Louisville and Missy with the Louisville Community Bail Fund. Today is Kalief Browder's 28th birthday, and we are celebrating his birthday by making sure that we bring awareness to the system that took his life and how we can end and abolish that system and save other Black lives. I am all about saving as many Black lives as possible. And the number one ways to do that are by ending our money bill system and ending like the current incarceration that disproportionately affects Black people. So Missy is going to talk a little bit about the background of bail and kind of how the bail fund started.
Mhm. So, a couple things that's important to know up front. So, money bail comes into play when someone's been arrested, but they have not yet been convicted of a crime. So, this is pretrial detention. This is something that affects people who are not yet under our innocent until proven guilty system, guilty of anything. So, you are sitting behind bars, waiting for ransom, seriously, just ransom to be paid and release you as a hostage. That's exactly what money bail is. It's a way to hold people hostage. The idea behind money bail is it secures you have a skin in the game, so you're going to come back to court. That's what the system would tell us. That's why money bail exists. However, when you bring money into the equation, it is immediately, and there's no equity there. So $5,000 cash bail to some person might be a drop in the bucket. They can pay it and walk out and be gone. For someone else, $5,000 is going to hold them, and they're going to sit behind bars, sometimes for as long as a year, if not more. And we know in Kalief Browder's story how long that was, without being convicted of a thing. A lot of these people also, their charges are going to be dropped. So you have wasted and lost time, jobs, housing, children sometimes to the system, because you've been behind bars for charges that will never come to fruition. There is no fairness in that. And once again, that would be if everyone were to get the same, okay, you got charged with this, so you have $5,000. That's still not equitable, and it's still not fair, because the haves and have-nots and the differences in our resourcing. But what we also know is that Black people who have been arrested receive higher bails, higher bonds than those who are white. And that's what our numbers tell us. That's what statistics tell us. So it is a completely inequitable system and completely unfair that targets, as the entire system does, targets Black and brown bodies. The LCBF is a community bail fund. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a fund supported by the community, worked by the community, those who are affected. And that's important because the community bail fund takes in donations from the community and then uses those funds to pay bail and to keep people out. So whatever that means post-release, if that means they need transportation to get to and from a job, they need transportation to get to and from their court appointments, mental health appointments, doctor's appointments, whatever it takes to make that person whole and stable. That's what the community bail fund is going to step in and do. We have case managers that that is what their entire, they're dedicated to making sure that our community members are safe, and that they're taking, as Chanel often says, the target is taken off of their back, the target that the system has placed on them. That's what the goal of the community bail fund is, and that every dollar that is given to the fund either pays bail or supports the community members.
I do want to touch back on something that you said about people who are being held hostage within the system, who are essentially being kidnapped, basically.
Yes.
So I'm originally from Memphis, and within our jail system there, the average person stays within pretrial detention for 3 to 5 years. So it's definitely kidnapping. And then the average person throughout the country stays in pretrial detention for that long. Simple basic amounts around 5,000, like you were saying, but also up to like $100,000, $200,000 for things that don't even make any sense. And we've seen research that shows once that bail isn't necessary for someone to come back to court. If you send them reminders, you let them know when their court dates are, they do show up. People don't need a bounty over their head to show up for court. But our country has like allowed this to continue and push the idea because they know that it's going to criminalize Black and brown bodies the most. So I want to make sure we did emphasize that because that's a big deal, especially for someone like me who has seen people not be able to pay bail, and be stuck in jail for years and haven't actually been convicted of anything.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that is so important to stress that for those people who are like, oh, but they're criminals. And we hear that a lot. We hear when people target bail funds, it's you're letting criminals on the street. No, that's not the way bail works. And that's not the way our system works. And that is the truth is any of us could be arrested at any time for anything because police have the power to do whatever they want to. And if a bail is placed on you that's higher than you can afford, you have not committed a crime, you have not been convicted of a thing, and you are just sitting there and you lose everything.
And I don't think people realize how serious that is. Like, by someone can get arrested for anything, and it happens to black people all the time. And then
Yeah.
you can literally lose your entire life, your children, your house. We're in a pandemic right now. People are already financially strapped. I know someone who was in jail for 2 days and lost their job, and so that coincidental. I mean that issue led to them losing their house, losing transportation, all these things just for being in jail for 2 days for something that they didn't do, that they, eventually were let go for and was dismissed. I know what it's like to be arrested for something that'll eventually be dismissed. I have, and although I didn't lose my job, I do know what it's like to be like, oh, I don't know if I can pay bail. I don't know if I can get out. I don't know what that situation is going to be like for me. And so that's one of the main reasons why we say, to end the money bail system, but also because of Kalief Browder's experience. Like,
Yes.
his story, I hate even like that he went through that, but his story is one of the main ones that I think about when we talk about like solitary confinement or how people are even treated in jail who get convicted of anything. Although I don't believe in jails, I also want to highlight the mistreatment they experienced, though. Like, we're talking about a young boy. He was 16 years old, left in solitary confinement for years at a time.
That is a child. He was a child.
And how we overly criminalize Black people. I think of like Micaiah Bryant, who was 15, and she was treated like an adult. Like, she was so like treated that she was so violent when these are essentially children. So the over policing, but also over criminalization of Black bodies,
Yes.
like because we adultify them, we don't let them actually enjoy childhood. That we treat them this way, and we think that it's okay.
Yes. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about ways people can get involved with LCBF? I know we talked about volunteering, and I have the volunteer link at the bottom here if anyone's looking for it. But can you talk about what that's like and how that actually helps LCBF do the work that they do?
Yes, thank you so much. So we have so many roles that we need filled within LCBF. Again, these are volunteers. This is a community bail fund. So the way that the system works is we have people calling into the hotline. So we need people to answer those calls when people either they're in jail and they get a hold of the number, or their family and friends are trying to get them released. We need people to answer those hotline calls. We need people who are willing to provide support to be bail runners, to pay bail for people. When you do that, you will then pick up the bail after that person has finished their situation within the court system. We also need people who are willing to provide support, who are willing to, line out mental health appointments, Medicaid, whatever it takes for that person to feel supported and to have what they need post release. That we need those support people who have a case management background. We can use you, and we can use people for as little as an hour a week to as much as you are willing to give. We can find a role for everyone depending on your strength. There are other systems and programs within LCBF like Court Watch that are super important and super necessary, but LCBF itself has so many roles that we can fill. So if you have any time to give to ending an unjust system, to really stepping in and doing something that makes a difference, then we would love to have you.
So I just want to take a moment to post a picture of Kalief so people know the beautiful Black man that he was, that should be alive today, and just take a second to celebrate him on his 28th birthday. 28 is a big birthday. I think that I realized growing up that like Black people, especially Black men, don't think that they'll even live past 25. And so for him to, not be able to live past it, but also for people to take like joy in his birthday today. I can imagine people celebrating his birthday today. And he deserves that. He deserves to feel that joy, even as he is an ancestor. So I want to take a moment to show who he is and let him know, like what he looks like, and just celebrate him for a second because he does deserve that.
Yes.
So I'm going to post a little bit more about LCBF here. What other than like doing the hotline and bell running, are there any like digital actions or virtual actions people can take to help fill those slots?
Thank you. Yes, we have the need for communications people. We have the need for people um, to create graphics for us and push those out. We really need communications people who are able to push out this message to both recruit for us, recruit help. There are always digital things that you can do completely from home that would be so necessary within LCBF.
And they can use that the volunteer link at the bottom. I'm also going to post a number here that y'all can use. You can call this number or text and let us know that you want to volunteer, and we'll get back to you later today. We do have like full programming today in celebration of Kalief's life, but also talking about like how we got here, of course, but also how we can take action and then the work that LCBF actually does. So we'll be going live later on at 2:30. We'll also be going live at 6 p.m. with some LCBF members talking about like what the Bell Fund actually does, like our day to day, what that process looks like, because we want you guys to understand like this is a very long process, but very necessary to get us to freedom. And want to make sure people know like what that process can look like. So I have a few more questions for Missy about bail in general. So, do you remember the first time that like you encountered someone that you were bailing out?
Yes. Actually, it's a community member. His mom still volunteers with LCBF and does a lot of work with LCBF. Um, and he was 17, about to turn 18 in the system, and that was our fear. The fear that he was going to turn 18 again, just being held hostage. He hadn't been convicted of anything, and there was a time crunch because once he turned 18, the system gobbled him up in a different way. So we as in a group from Highland Baptist Church in Louisville, the anti-racism team that I co-lead, gathered bailed him out, and then provided support to get him through the system, to get him through his process. Met with him talking about schooling, about jobs, anything that he wanted to do in his goals. That was our process. And each person was assigned to a role with this individual. And we still have a relationship with him, and we love him deeply. And we see the way that the system traumatized him. Again, a child who didn't get to be a child, and his childhood was taken away and colored by what happened and by what the police did and then what the system did to him, and they still target him because of the color of his skin. And it's very clear, sitting in his trials and watching what he goes through, that he is being targeted for nothing else but for being a Black man walking down the street. But yes, that situation and that experience, and again, once you volunteer with us and see, you're making a real difference. These are people. Oh, Amber, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was just agreeing with you, like about what you were saying. And I know the community member you're talking about, so I do know that, like, I know firsthand also with volunteering, like the process we've gone through. I know what it's like myself to be targeted, so I know it's a very real thing. And that's why we do need like volunteers with LCB. But also, that's why the bail system and any money bail is so important because I have literally seen it impact impact someone's life to like the brink where they were just like, I don't know how I can keep doing this because there's one instance of someone seeing a Black person just living their life because Black existence is immediately assumed to be violent. When someone living their life, it's just like, oh, they can't possibly do the right thing. We need to arrest them.
Yes.
And Shelby County, where I'm from, like the DA is known to prosecute people for like half a gram a week, like literally with $100,000 bills for half a gram. So it's just
And I
simple
think that
criminalized that it's just like why.
and I think that it's really important for white people to hear these things, that because we get so comfortable, the system was created for us, so we feel really comfortable in it. We feel really comfortable thinking, oh, it's that it only bad people end up in jail. And so then when someone gets arrested, immediately, well, they deserve it and they're a bad person. Um, no, that's not what's happening. That is the system is gobbling up people because they're being a little too free, and it's seriously not okay. And if you know this, and once you know this and you don't fight, then you're complicit and you're part of the problem and part of the system.
Because how dare you be black and actually enjoy life?
Right.
You know, how dare we?
Right. Right.
I want to share. I'm going to share a graphic in just a second, because I know also like with today being the anniversary that of George Floyd's actual murder that we're going to watch, and Kalief Browder's birthday, people are going to be taking action and taking to the streets. So I want to make sure that we're being safe and that people have all the resources they need for that. So give me just a second, and I'll post that for y'all. But I also just want to thank y'all for joining us. This is a really important issue. Like any money bail, for me, is probably the top issue that Black people deal with. Once we are able to end money bail, I think that it'll resolve a lot of the issues that we have. Um, just Black people in general, it doesn't stop the overcriminalization. It won't stop from going to jail, but it will actually impact what happens after someone is arrested. And we've seen in other places where ending money bail has worked great. Like California, for example, in Brooklyn, New York, they did a project a few years ago where they um, didn't give people bail. So, like, the project, I can't remember the specific name for it, but they either didn't give someone bail or they paid the bail. And they said over 90% of the people showed up for court. Over 70% of the cases were dismissed, and there were very few convictions, and very few people didn't actually not show up to court. And it was used in this argument to end money bail in New York and Brooklyn, and in some places in New York they don't have money bail, but it's because of this project that they had this evidence to say, hey, this isn't a reason, because we try to sell this idea that we have to have money bail because we need people to show up back for court, and they aren't going to show up, so we have to hold them. But that's not true. And I think it's also important to mention that money bail is used as a tactic to further criminalize people through plea deals. Statistically, throughout the entire world, if someone is in jail for more than 3 days in pretrial detention, they are 60% more likely to plead guilty to a crime they did not commit, just so they can get out of jail. And that is like one of the biggest issues, because people are literally like pleading guilty to something they didn't do just because they don't have any other choice. They literally are trying to save their jobs. I want to share this graphic real quick about protesting to make sure y'all have this information. So if you or someone you know is arrested at a protest, or you're going to a protest, write this on your arm. You can donate to the Bell Fund here. If you aren't going to protest, but you do know, like, hey, I have friends going, or I just know people are going to go, period. Let me just write down this link. And then also, if you need legal support, use this link. If they take your phone, use this link here. And if they take your car, use that link. And if you are watching this, just screenshot it so that you have the information. Because we want to make sure that everyone is safe if they're going out today, because there's a lot happening. And then, of course, we'll be live later at 2:30, so you can catch us then. And we'll be, just continuing this series. How do we win? We just talked about how we got here, how the Bail Fund started, but also how Money Bail kind of started. And later on, we'll be talking about how you take action, what you can do, and then also what the Bail Fund does. So I'll see y'all at 2:30, talking about how we take action.